All right. Whoa. So I have assessed my current level of competency in each area of personal and professional competencies. I have several areas that I need to improve upon. Um, what I had noted is the first professional competency that I noticed I needed improvement upon is as follows. The student counselor articulates when a counselor may take a leadership role. Um, that's something that I need to familiarize myself more with. Thinking about it from a counselor student standpoint, I'm still learning. I would imagine that that leadership role wouldn't really be presentable or appropriate with a counselor client relationship. I feel as a counselor, you're there more as like a mentor and a supporter for your client rather than like having a leadership role, because with a counselor and a client, there's already like a power differential, and I think it's really important to make the client feel comfortable and like they're on an even playing field. I think you can take on some leadership characteristics and be supportive and helpful, but not to have an over authoritarian or domineering presence with a client. As far as an example, I would imagine for a leadership role would probably be a like a not an aged but a long-standing counselor that has several years of experience that is taking in a new counselor that does not have that hands-on experience, and they want to be a leader for that new counselor, like perhaps in their internship and when they're still studying and learning. I think that would be a great time and a great phase in a counselor's career to have a leadership role. Another point I wanted to make is I personally, due to lack of professional experience as a counselor, am unsure of when to take on a leadership role. I feel as a counselor, your primary role is to be a mentor for the client. Circling back to what I said initially, I would agree with that, that essentially you want to be more of a mentor rather than a leader for your client. I just think it's just a more appropriate relationship between the counselor and client. Secondly, another competency I would like to work on, the student counselor demonstrates the ability to manage stress of a demanding profession and has good coping skills. This was a big one for me. I have had in my lifetime really high stress jobs, including being a prep cook, a cook, a deckhand at a marina, and you're on your feet and a lot of times have seconds to evaluate a really high stress situation and immediately take action on a stressful or otherwise dangerous situation. I believe every career path has its strengths and weaknesses, and you're inevitably going to deal with challenging situations and demands that will inevitably affect your own personal mental health and can induce high levels of stress. So ultimately, my goal is, as a person personally and as a professional counselor, is to learn how to step back from those stress inducing situations and learn to take everything into perspective. I know that's easier said than done, especially when you're in something, but I think it's really important to be able to have clarity in a situation. And I think to obtain clarity is, again, by stepping back and looking at the whole picture and not taking things so personally, which I think can be a challenge for many folks. And just being able to have a positive perspective on things. But again, I do think there are really great coping techniques for stress, one of which I believe is meditating and solitude. As a therapist, it's a very I would imagine, emotionally and mentally demanding profession, and being empathic and taking in other people's energies and their dilemmas and life issues. You have to be able to like wipe all of that off your shoulders when you go home, and not take all of that home with you, to also have very strong boundaries between your professional life and your personal life, and be able to just not let it soak in too much. But as I initially stated, yeah, I think meditation helps a lot, deep breathing, and also, exercise. Exercise is a phenomenal way to naturally lower stress levels. But again, coping with stress is not my strong suit. I'm working on it, and I've gotten a lot better. But I think if you, as a professional counselor, have mastered yourself and mastered your own capability of managing stress, you can take those techniques that you've personally mastered and learned and apply those in your counseling sessions, and really help your clients out with whatever they're dealing with and facing, and just allowing them to live a more mindful and peaceful lifestyle. So I would essentially say those are the two things that I need to work on, and that aren't necessarily my strong suits right now. So the first was coping with stress, and the second one was knowing when it is appropriate to take on a leadership role as a counselor. And I think, it's great, this program, learning so much, but essentially I think that internship and that practicum is where I'll definitely learn when it's appropriate to take on a leadership role. And also, I myself would like to receive counseling sessions, and maybe that would help me learn better coping skills and managing my stress in my personal situations, and in the demanding field of clinical mental health counseling. All right, have a wonderful evening.